Good morning, everyone. We are going to give it just a second here as everyone is entering from the waiting room. All right. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
everyone. Welcome to this WIO Wednesday webinar. My name is Kirsten Bayer with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University, and I will be your moderator and technical support for today's webinar. And I'm joined by two of my colleagues from Southern University, Sarah Goldammer and Tara Schwab, so they can introduce themselves briefly here in just a second. We're going to do some housekeeping things before we get started. First off, today's topic is 6 steps to get clients employed, and we're joined by our presenter today, Christopher McElroy. And then a couple of housekeeping things. Chris, if you could go to the next slide for me. Again, my name is Kirsten Bayer. So if you need any tech support during this session, feel free to reach out to me via the chat. And then just as a reminder, all participants on this webinar are in listen-only mode and you cannot unmute yourselves. So if you do have questions or comments as the webinar proceeds, please post those in the chat or the Q&A and we will address them kind of as is throughout the session if they're warranted. And then we will also have a live discussion and Q&A at the end of the session where we will answer all of your questions. And then the reminder that this webinar is being recorded. And today's recording and the PowerPoint slide deck from today will be available on our center's website. And I can put that link in the chat momentarily here for you. And then also on the Illinois WorkNet website within 48 hours. The PowerPoint slide deck is available for you to follow along and download today during the live session. And again, I will put that link in the chat momentarily. And then in an effort to be as accessible as possible for all of our attendees today, we are offering live closed captioning. And so if you would like to turn that on, you can locate it at the bottom of your Zoom screen. On the menu bar, you'll see live transcript, and you can simply click on that and then click enable auto transcription, and that live closed captioning will pop up for you. And then at the end of today's webinar and tomorrow, you will receive a follow-up email, which will include the survey asking you about today's webinar. And we ask that if you could just provide us 5 minutes out of your workday to provide any feedback or suggestions to help our professional development team improve upcoming webinars, we would greatly appreciate that. So again, you will receive that link, that survey link in a follow-up email tomorrow. And then I will also put that same survey link in the chat towards the end of the session if you want to be more timely about filling that out for us. And then another reminder, if you do have faulty internet connection or audio connection today and you would prefer to call in, you can do so by using the phone number in your original registration email for this session. And I will put that phone number in the chat momentarily as well. And then you can go to the next slide for me, Chris. We're going to start off with our beginning WIO Wednesday webinar polls that we do every WIO Wednesday. So if you've ever joined us for a WIO Wednesday webinar, you are more than familiar with these. But first and foremost, we'd just like to know where you're joining us from this morning. So where is your local area across the state, or if you're joining us statewide? I know myself, I'm joining you from Central Illinois. We are still part work from home, part in the office. So yesterday I was up in Normal, Illinois, which is where our center is located. And today I'm working from home in Decatur, Illinois. So I'm joining you from Central. And then Chris, where are you joining us from today?
I am in Cook County, so 20 minutes south of the city in South Holland, Illinois.
Nice. All right. So most of you have voted here. So I'll share those results so we can kind of debrief. Most of you are joining us from Central Illinois, and another handful of you from the Northern and Chicago area, and then sprinkled across Southern Illinois as well. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And then the next slide, please, Chris. We're going to talk about which partner you best represent. So if you best represent Title 1, 2, 3, or 4, or if you are more consider yourself an other WIO partner or stakeholder or state or local workforce innovation board. So we'll give everyone about 30-ish seconds to fill out this poll for us. All right, and then I will end that and share the results. So most of you are joining us from Title 1 this morning. or other WEO partners and stakeholders, and the rest of you are sprinkled across the sector. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. We greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And I will hand it off to our presenter today, Christopher McElroy.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this presentation. My name is Chris McElroy. I am the Director of Adult Education at South Suburban College. Prior to being the Director of Adult Education, I was primarily the transitions coach for the adult education program. That includes our GED classes, ESL classes, and our ICAPS courses where students try to take a college credit course along with adult ed courses. As transitions coach, I have helped many students try to find employment. I did resume writing, took students to job fairs, did lots of mock interviews. So over the course of my time in adult education, I have done all I can to try to get students employment. Because outside of just doing things for education's sake, most of our clients are trying to get work. You know, even if they're just trying to learn a skill, they're still usually trying to go for employment. So that being said, I wanted to go over 6 steps that I feel are a must for getting clients and students employed. The first thing I want to talk about before we jump into the 6 steps is employment and career exploration. Career exploration can be a difficult process for clients. They are going through their history of their life, their employment, their skills, their certifications, and frankly, it's not a process that most people want to do or go through. If you find yourself at an American Job Center, an unemployment office, a adult ed facility, you're probably not there because that's where you want to be. You're there because you need to be there. And we need to be sensitive to that. I know a lot of times it's harder to do things one-on-one or in small groups. But if you are going to do some type of in-depth career exploration, I find it's best to do this in a small group or one-on-one setting, because that way you get more in-depth and you learn more about the client. With that being said, here are the 6 steps. You want to have skills analysis, resume writing, the dreaded digital literacy, job seeking, the interview, and of course, the follow-up. When you're first starting skills analysis, I believe that you should stay away from a long career inventory. I know that when we initially hear skills analysis, we think of a big list that is agree to disagree, like, don't like, do you like working in teams, or would you rather work independently? It doesn't need to be that structured in the outset. Just have your clients, customers, give them a sheet of paper and say, hey, list any jobs that you've had over the last 10 years, where you worked, what city was it in, list any certificates in education, and list any skills or experience that you might have. You're going to have to ask a lot of follow-up questions later, but it's better to do this in an informal process rather than in a giant inventory. You need as much information from the student as possible to help craft their resume and make them employable. So why not start with a career inventory and a resume builder? We have a lot of great we have a lot of great websites, a lot of great avenues for us to help our students with a career inventory. So why not just take them and throw them on there? I find that students might want to do that first of all. This is a picture from one of the first job interview resume writing seminars I did back in 2014 when I became full-time transitions coach. And it was a disaster, I'm not gonna lie. There were 25 students in the class. We gave them all laptops. They were very excited. I gave them a long 50, 80 question career inventory where it says, you know, what career should you go into? And it didn't work. So I was like, okay, all right. The students didn't really enjoy that. No one felt they got anything out of it. Maybe I'll do it in a smaller group. maybe 10 to 12 students. Still, didn't work, didn't enjoy it. Maybe I'll do it one-to-one, have them come into my office, fill it out, then we'll talk. Worked a little better, but still, no. And the reason is if a student or client is coming to you and asking you like, hey, I need help to get a job, the first thing that's gonna shut them down immediately is if you put a giant packet in front of their face with 100 questions and say, hey, fill this out. Or sit in front of the computer and say, hey, why don't you click through this thing, and it's gonna tell you you should probably be in a leadership role or analytical field, or maybe you're gonna work with computers. That's fine if the student is more along in their career exploration, but initially, when they haven't worked in a long time, or they're just getting into the workforce, they're looking for employment, they're looking for, hey, give me some tools that I'm going to use in order to get a job. And the first thing we want to do is put them in a giant career inventory. That's not helpful. That's not giving them any skills. It's just giving them more work. Clients and students also don't respect their own work experience. It is important for the career coach or the instructor to shape that experience for the client. I've sat with students where I give them a sheet of paper and I say, hey, give me your last 10 years of work. And they say, well, I haven't worked. I've just been raising my kids. I'm like, so what have you been doing? Have you been doing anything besides that? Well, I help my uncle out. Oh, really? What do you help your uncle do? Well, you know, I work in his body shop. I help him out sometimes. Oh, what do you do there? Oh, you know, brake pads, oil changes, help with customer support. I'm like, that's a job. Just because students don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks or a W-2, sometimes they feel that doesn't count as employment. Sometimes I feel that doesn't count as them having a job because they didn't get the 2 weeks of training, the paycheck, the pay stubs. They might just be getting cash. However, they're still working. That's still experience. That's still stuff that can go on a resume. But a lot of times clients don't see it that way. They see that it's just, oh, it's just something I'm doing on the side. We have to get clients out of that mindset first. And this is why we need to talk to them and interview them before we try to put them onto a giant career inventory. Those questions in the chat?
Nope, just posting the slide deck for everyone and everything, Chris.
Okay. So without guidance, clients won't be able to highlight themselves in a way that's attractive for employers. When I first started as a transitions coach, I would do the career inventory and have them sit on a resume builder and say, hey, just put your jobs in. And a lot of times I would get stuff like this. McDonald's, 2015 to present, customer service, cash handling, cleaning, boom. Literally a third of a page. And again, this person did not have a lot of work history, but I felt that they were probably missing something. So after I got this back, I sat down and talked with them and asked them, hey, so what precisely did you do at McDonald's? And then after sitting there, talking with them, going over their resume, I was able to create them this. As you can see, they did a bunch of things. They had a lot of responsibilities, a lot of work history. And you see right here in Avon, they were door-to-door selling makeup, but they didn't see that as a real job. They saw it more as a hustle, so they didn't put it on their resume. But that's still a job. You still are being paid to do a service. So this is something that we have to really hammer down and talk to with our clients, because they a lot of times don't respect their own work history, don't respect what they've done for a living. So moving into that, I want to talk about the 3 different types of resumes. Of course, we have your standard chronological resume. And before I begin, I want to tell you that all of the resumes that you see in this slide deck were created by me sitting with a student. I've just changed all the names, but all of the other information is pretty close to how it was. The structure and everything, I might have changed the name of the job, but these are all real resumes that were created with students during my time as transitions coach. So the most typical style of resumes are chronological, just step by step in reverse order, detailing all your work history. This is good for anybody who's had multiple jobs over years and has a decent sized work history. If you have fewer no gaps, this is good for you to use. And then this is easy to change and edit over time. The next resume is a functional resume. And this is a resume I use for a lot of students who have gaps in employment or had employment a long time ago or had a lot of different odd jobs. The purpose of this resume is it highlights your skills and achievements and draws attention away from the fact that you might not have worked in a few years or you might have a large gap in employment. Because even if you have a gap, you can explain that. It might have been someone got sick, it might have been childcare, could be any number of things. You know, the gap in employment doesn't always stop you from getting the job. But however, some students and clients feel that when they have a large gap, they don't even want to try because it makes them look bad. So I want you to, hopefully you guys can see this. I just zoomed in a little bit. This is a resume I did with an ESL student. When I first asked them if they had any work history, they said no. They've just been raising their kids. I was like, really? Okay, so have you ever had a job? She's like, well, I had some jobs in Mexico, but that doesn't matter. I was like, yeah, it definitely does matter. Tell me what job you had. This person was a cartographer for the National Geographical Institute in Mexico. At the time, they had more education than I did, but they didn't want to value their work experience. They made maps, drew landlines, and was a certified engineer for the national government. But they didn't feel that any of that mattered because it wasn't in this country. And I had to explain, and then why I still explain to ESL students, all of your work history matters. And then of course, we have our hybrid resume. A hybrid resume combines the functional and chronological format. This highlights specific skills or achievements that you might have had at a current job or pulls skills and experience from a past job that you can highlight alongside current work. So you might be wondering, do I have to sit here and create every resume? Yes and no. While I feel it's best for clients and students that you work with them side by side to do their resumes, you do not have to create, manage, and build every template. One of the beautiful things is service integration. We have tons and tons and tons of tools at our disposal to help us help our clients, to help us help the customers. We can go to Illinois WorkNet, ONET Online, My Next Move, Career One Stop. All of these websites have great avenues for helping students build resumes, have job interviews, things like that. One of the things I want to highlight in this slide deck, and especially right now, is Illinois WorkNet. Illinois WorkNet is one of the best resources that I've seen in terms of professional development and career exploration. They have career inventories, they have interview help. You could search for jobs on there and write resumes. First thing you have to do, of course, like with everything, is you want to click the sign up button in the top left. Sign up, create an email, create a password. It's going to email you, you know, the drill. This is another reason why I feel that this segment needs to be done one-on-one or in a small group with clients, because digital literacy is an issue, and I'll talk about that later on. But once you sign in and log in, you click the resume section, you click the home page, and it'll show you all of the resources that are available in the Illinois WorkNet Optimal Resume site. You see their video tutorials on everything from proper email etiquette to how to research a company. They have a resume builder, they have an interview prepper. They even have a website builder for if you want to build your own website. This is good if you're, let's say you want to get work as an artist or as someone in website design. This is a good way to practice for free. Eleanor WorkNet has one of the most robust resume creators that I have seen, hands down. I'm sure that a lot of you have been with a student or with a client who says, yeah, I have my own resume, and they bring a resume to you and it's a small box printed on a large piece of paper. That's because most of our clients and students, when they Google resume creator, it takes them to a site that allows them to create a resume. And then when they get to the last page to print it, it says, hey, you need to pay $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 to print this resume. Most of our students don't have that, or most of our students don't want to do it. So they're just printing right off the website. And of course, these websites are smart. So they don't let you print a regular resume if they print the page inside of a larger page, and it makes it look bad. However, Eleanor WorkNet doesn't do that. It is a free tool that'll help you build resumes. I'm going to walk us through it real quick. And on this website, you can build any resume you want. You can make a chronological, you can make a functional, or you can make a hybrid resume. So right now I'm going to walk us through how to make a chronological resume real simply on Eleanor WorkNet. So first, once you click the resumes, you go to browse samples. You could do anything. You could go freehand, empty set form, or empty sections. But one of the easiest things is to go through the samples. You go through the samples. The moment you go through the samples, it opens up a page that has categories for all work and the experience level. You click on that. For the purposes, I clicked education, training, and then I'm gonna click experience. And this is gonna give me 5 samples of resumes. See, adult basic education, criminal justice and law enforcement, self-enrichment education. And of course, being in the field I am, I chose adult basic and secondary education. Once you click that, it auto-fills a resume for you. It has a fake name, but the moment you click use this sample, it'll put your own information in there. And you can go in and edit it as much or as little as you want to. This is another reason I feel that you need to be with the students while you're doing this, because you can go in and help them pick the correct wording for their jobs. But you don't have to make the template. It automatically creates it for you, and all you have to do is plug in and fill. You can make an unlimited amount of resumes too. Whenever you're finished, it auto saves for you, and it's always there in your Eleanor WorkNet hub. And this is why it's so important to teach our clients and students digital literacy. Now, I know that digital literacy is its own other presentation. I'm sure we could do a whole nother full day long thing on teaching digital literacy. However, a minimum number of digital literacy skills is necessary in order to find jobs and find employment. According to the National Skills Coalition, nearly 1 out of every 3 workers have limited or no foundation of digital skills needed to do their current job. These are people who are currently employed right now, and they don't have the digital skills needed for the job they have. So imagine people in our line of work who don't have a job at all. They're looking for work right now. Imagine what their digital literacy skills are. A basic level of digital literacy skills is required to obtain employment. Again, you have to know how to apply for jobs online, how to spot fake jobs, how to create a proper email, how to respond to emails. Gone are the days of walking into a store, they hand you a paper application, you sit at the desk, you fill it out, you hand it in. That doesn't happen anymore. 9 times out of 10, if you're looking for work and you go into a place of business, they're gonna say, thanks, we're hiring, please go to our website and fill out an application. And if you have limited digital literacy skills, you might not be able to do that at all. This is an avenue where we can do these things in practice. Or let's just say a person is looking for work online. They see, hey, I can apply for this. And the response is, please email this person back. they don't know how to how to email, they might not get the job. And many of these small things stop our clients from getting jobs, whether they email somebody and their email address is FrostyLover62, they might not get the job. Or if they respond entirely in the subject line, you might have already disqualified yourself because the employer knows that you're not really good on the computer. These are a lot of little things that stop our clients from getting work or even getting to the interview, and they need to be addressed before we can make them employable. One of the tools that I love using is GCF Learn Free. I'm sure if any of you have ever seen one of my presentations or been in any of them, you might have heard me mention it. I unapologetically love this website. It has a bunch of free tools that helps you do pretty much anything. You learn reading, writing, math, but most importantly for our purposes is digital literacy. It can show you step-by-step how to use the computer and how to use the internet. It starts as basic as this is how you turn the computer on. This is what the left click on the mouse does. This is what the right click on the mouse does. It's really goes right down to basics, and everything on this website is free. One of the things I want to show you is they have a whole section dedicated just to emails, email basics, Gmail, and how to send attachments and things like that to email. It also, for a lot of these sections, has little YouTube clips. And this is a whole, I screenshot a whole section that just talks about Gmail and email. These are the things that our students need to know in order to become employable. It even has a section just on job-related computer skills, how to career plan, how to job search, how to write resumes, do cover letters, how to money manage. It even has a whole section on email etiquette and email violations that can get you fired. And we've all seen an email from a student or a client that is, wow, that was quite unprofessional. It might not matter to us, but when they are trying to get work or are currently in work, these things might be able to derail their career, all because they don't have the digital literacy skills needed to avoid those pitfalls. Also I'd be remiss if I didn't also talk about all the CoWAVE resources that we have in teaching digital literacy. Now, this goes beyond just finding employment and getting a job. But if you have higher level students who already have some career training, already have some familiarity with the computer, this is a good way to take them to that next level. There are over 82 lessons on the CoWAVE website just on digital literacy alone, from making a PowerPoint to surfing the web. And I believe this is a great resources for instructors, career coaches, career navigators, or anyone who wants to try to get their clients more digital literacy skills or get themselves more digital literacy skills. And when it comes to employability, our students being more digital is the way of the future. CoWAVE has partnered with Google to provide CoWAVE digital skills. These are the skills that you need to get the job, from learning all of the different Google suites, as you've seen, especially during the pandemic. Google Forms, Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Meets have all risen in popularity and are now mandatory for some jobs for doing your work. This program will give you certificates to show that you are Google digital skills savvy. And these are something else that students and clients can put on their resume to make them more hireable, to make them more employable, and also just to make it easier for them to find work. And this is not only for students, it's for job seekers, it's for teachers, it's for career navigators. You could do hundreds of lessons or just watch the YouTube videos to get yourself more familiar. It allows you to set your own pace, and it allows you to create your own lessons if you're trying to input some digital literacy skills onto your clients. That being said, how should students find and look for jobs? This is one of the biggest barriers to employment that students have. A student, they have a resume, they need work, They go online and start looking for jobs. They might sign up for monster.com, Career Builder, or some other random sites. But if they don't have a basic level of digital literacy, they might set themselves up for applying for fake jobs, receiving spam, or just never getting any callbacks because they're applying for jobs that don't exist. Or they're signing up for job boards that all they do is sell your information and turn around and send you spam, and there's never a job in the first place. How can we stop our clients from doing this? Well, here's some tips for avoiding fake job announcements. And these are available at this link down at the bottom. There's also more of these on the GCF Learn Free site, but for this came from this website that I linked here at the bottom. You want to make sure that a student is never paying to start a job. Or if they are paying to start a job, they know exactly what the job is. I remember one of my first jobs, I sold Cutco knives. And I went to the training and they were like, okay, you need to buy your own set of knives in order to sell them. It was $100 in. And I went home, told my mom, and she was like, no, you should not pay to have a job. We're going somewhere else. And I was 16 at the time. I was like, all right, makes sense to me. But a lot, that was only because I had my parents there to tell me, no, you're not going to pay $100 because you don't know if you're ever going to see that money because you never sell any knives. You don't get that money. So if a student has to pay a startup cost for a job, a lot of the times it's scam, and sometimes it's door-to-door sales, which a lot of students don't want to do. Same thing with a lot of entry-level positions. They may say that you're going to make a lot of money along the way while you figure out what you want to do, but really it's just door-to-door sales positions. Or the work from home scams. And work from home scams have exploded in popularity since the pandemic because a lot of jobs are trying to hire from home, but a lot of them are just trying to get your information to sell it, or trying to send you spam, or just trying to scam you out of your own information and might steal your identity. Another thing we need to let our students know is never put in your social security or any personal information on sites that are not trustworthy. Here's an example. Work from home job, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, earn $45 per hour with no experience. Those things don't happen. But again, if you're just desperate and looking for work, you might just be applying to every job you see. And then all of a sudden you have 400 spam emails in your inbox. And now you're just like, well, I'm done. I'm discouraged. And you might pause your job search because any relevant job inquiries are being buried by all of the spam that you've received in your inbox due to this. Also on that website is teaching our clients to see predatory ads, pop-ups. Because a lot of times you go to these job boards, you go to these job sites, they send you these emails, you click on them and all of this stuff pops up. And again, if your clients don't have those digital literacy skills, they might not know, hey, don't click on that link, it's gonna give you a virus. These are the things that are stopping our students and clients from getting work. Because I know that if I apply for 10 jobs and 5 of them crash my computers, I might be a little skeptical and try to get paper applications, which really don't exist anymore. So how can we avoid this? Again, service integration, our workforce partners, WorkNet, ONET, My Next Move, Career One Stop, USA Jobs, even IDS. You are less likely to come across fake jobs if you sign up and use those websites to search for work. You are less likely for those places to sell your information if you use those websites for work. Also on WorkNet and My Next Move and Career One Stop, those applications are more likely to be reviewed by humans and not just be scanned by a computer program. So one of the things that you have to do is to make sure that your clients have enough digital literacy skills to sign up for these websites and make sure that they're going to check their email regularly. A lot of students don't have the correct online presence. They might have one email address for everything. This is where you can make sure that you have your students have an email for work and an email for random other stuff, because the random other stuff is probably full of spam. Why don't clients get the job? So let's just say you got your resume, you've gone, you found your job, you sent it in, and now you're doing the job interview. Why don't you get the job after the job interview? A lot of times is having poor personal appearance, inability to communicate clearly, lack of purpose or goals, lack of enthusiasm, negative comments about past employers. These are students that I took to a job fair, and I made sure that everyone went to a job fair, wore their best clothes or as best as they could. One of the great things about this job fair was at Moraine Valley. There was an organization there that had clothes and jackets for loan for job interviews, because a lot of clients might not have anything to wear to a job interview. These are also barriers for our students. One of the things that stops students from getting the job is trying to wing it. A lot of students may go to a job interview very qualified, but they didn't prepare. Clients need to understand that they need to do homework on an organization they're about to interview with. Nothing is more frustrating for an employer than finding out a person is trying to wing a job interview. And this is 2021, there are no excuses, except they might not have the digital literacy skills needed in order to search the company. So you want to make sure with your clients that they know that, hey, go to the company's website. Every company website has an About Us page, a mission statement. Review that mission statement. You want to find out what services the company provides, how long they've been in business. You want to make the interviewer impressed with how much they know about the company. Because if they're able to say, oh, this is why I work here, I want to work here because you found out the company is in South Holland, Illinois. You live in South Holland. Oh, you know what? I want to work here because I want to bring literacy to the South suburbs, and I live here. You know, just little things like that can help someone get the job. But our students might not know how to do those things. That's why mock interviewing is key. Clients should participate in as many mock interviews as possible. No matter how much you review, go to these websites, look at questions and answers. Nothing is better than actually sitting there and practicing. This is one of the few activities that I recommend doing with a group. I have found that if you, with clients, if you have a mock interview and there's 5, 6 people there, that's a good feedback, because I could say all day, hey, that wasn't a good question, that wasn't a bad question, but consensus, asking them, hey, asking other students, other clients, why is this a good answer or a bad answer, helps relax the client and helps them formulate a better answer. Right here, this link that I have in the slide is a great resource. It has 100 of the top most asked job interview questions and 200 or so of the best answers for that. And going over these questions with clients, going over them in mock interviews is one of the best things that you could do to help prepare them for the job interview. And again, this is something that you might not have the luxury of doing all the time, one-on-one in small group settings. So we have to make sure we use our resources. Illinois WorkNet, back to Illinois WorkNet. They have an interview prep slide on their site. If you go to Illinois WorkNet, go to home, click interview prep, you have to sign in. It has over hundreds of interviews based on what job and career. You can interview business technology sources, you can interview for healthcare, you can interview for website design, whatever. And they're all anywhere from 4 minutes to 10 to 15 minutes. And you can also set up your own questions. I would advise everybody after this is over to go through Illinois WorkNet, sign up for yourself, and to see all the resources that are there, especially the job interview resources. These are, I'm telling you guys, is very robust and very good, and all of the clients can do it from home. One of the things that you also want to do is prepare students and clients for a virtual interview. Through the pandemic, virtual interviewing has exploded. I have never participated in a virtual interview prior to 2020. Since the pandemic, I have done 4 of them with prospective adult education instructors. And it's a different sort of animal. You have to make sure that you practice with your clients how to do things. Make sure that they have good lighting, an uncluttered background. They rehearse. They might be very good in a one-on-one setting with a person, but online, they might not be the best. Trying to get them to make sure they look at the camera instead of looking at themselves. And I know that's hard for a lot of us because there's a giant picture, there's a little picture of you of yourself, you want to look at it. Or making sure that they rehearse beforehand. One of the things you don't want them to do is have a distracting background. You know, I love The Simpsons, but if I'm going to be in a job interview, I can't have the employer looking at my Simpsons background the whole time because it's distracting and it looks like I'm not taking the interview seriously. It'd be pretty weird if I did my entire presentation with a wacky background. But these are something that students and clients don't realize. Also, if at all possible, clients should have a computer or a laptop, or if they're using their phone, put their phone on a steady surface. Have it locked, because nothing's more annoying than this happening in the middle of an interview. I've had professional people that ended up being good instructors, but I could tell they did their entire virtual interview on their cell phone, leaned back like this. To you, the person on your phone, it looks fine, but to the person interviewing, it is almost vertigo inducing. So you want to make sure that they have those little things. You know, you can do it on your phone if you don't have a computer, but make sure they have it in a good place with lighting and is locked. Don't hold it in your hand because again, it's very distracting for the interviewer. And this is something that is easier to practice. You can practice this with a group in a room, but making sure that they're prepared for a virtual interview, because I see personally more virtual interviews going forward, because you can interview more people in a day if you don't have to schedule them coming into the building. So clients need to prepare to be online. There you go, sorry. Also, you want to make sure you prepare the clients for the end of an interview. I've been in interviews and had interviews where at the end, you're like, okay, you have any questions? And the person's like, nah, and gets up and pretty much leaves. You know, it's strange. But you want to make sure that you have your clients prepare job interview questions for the employer. And this is where your research beforehand comes in handy. You also want to make sure that there's quick little questions that you ask. What I always tell clients is just ask the interviewer about themselves. People love talking about themselves. So if you ask them, hey, how long have you had the job? They'll start going, you know, what's your position here? How am I going to be evaluated? One of the first things you don't want students to ask is, how many days am I going to miss? I've had clients, you do that interview and it doesn't go well. If you're offered the job, you want to make sure you offer to call in a few days afterwards. If someone's interviewing 10 or 12 people, they might forget to call you back. While I was doing one of these job interview presentations, one of the students said to me that happened to her. They had interviewed for a job, they thought it went really well. Then about a week, 2 weeks go by, they didn't hear anything. So they called the employer back and just wanted to know, hey, I just want to know why I didn't get the job, or if there's anything else I could do, any more information that you have. The employer was, oh my God, thank you. I'm so glad you called. I remembered your interview, but your papers got shuffled and I didn't know how to contact you. So they talked for a minute. She came in for a second interview and ended up getting the job, all because she called back. If you don't follow up, the chances of you getting the job drop dramatically. Also, always want to make sure with the clients, this is what I say, and I meant to say this in the mock interviewing slide, is the more and more you do mock interviews, the more and more you practice, you realize that an interview has certain beats to it. I always tell students that a job interview isn't really an interview. It's more like a play. I'm waiting for you to say your lines so that I can say my lines. And if you get that rhythm, you have an anecdote that you tell all the time, you have a story that shows you in a good light and is related to that job, you could reuse that for several interviews. Just make sure you keep that rhythm, because if you practice and go back and forth, you'll realize that a lot of job interviews are kind of the same, and you don't really need to be nervous about it. But that's why the practice is the best thing. You want to make sure you send the interviewer a thank you note or a little email afterwards. Don't do it as you're walking out of the office. That's just a personal thing. I think it's too much to just immediately after you finish the interview, 2 minutes later, to get an email thanking you and everything. But wait a couple days. That gives it time for maybe if they have forgotten you or if they interviewed other people, your name pops back up. I was like, oh, I remember that person. I enjoyed that interview. That was good. So you want to make sure you're in contact with the employer. After a student or client feels comfortable writing their resume, interviewing, assessing their skills, and has a minimum amount of digital literacy, this is where you could begin doing a career inventory, where you could go through career exploration and wonder what I'm gonna do beyond a job and move into a career. So this is the best time to break out your 100 question or 50 question survey, because now that a client is comfortable with, okay, I know how to reply to an email. Okay, I know where to go look for jobs. All right, I have a great resume. Now I can start wrapping my head around what I want to do for my future, as opposed to what I need to do for right now. However, before you start doing a large career inventory, I suggest that you go back to simple questions in career exploration. I don't know how many have heard of the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Occupational Outlook Handbook is a resource that is managed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I've used this in every job interview segment that I've done with students, every career exploration segment I've ever done, and clients really enjoy it because a lot of people have ideas in their head of what they want to do or what a job might be, but then when they find out what a job actually is, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And the Occupational Outlook Handbook is great. It has statistics and information on every job and category in the United States. And what it does is you can search by your state, by your county, by career cluster, or just by the job itself. And what I always have students do is I have them sit there, answer questions, and say, hey, I want to be a phlebotomist, and I'll type phlebotomy into the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and they see that position only pays $14 an hour. And they're like, oh, I might not want to do that. But they might also find a job that they really like and then realize that, oh, I only need an associate's degree to do that. I always thought people who did that job had master's degrees. These are things that let students know what avenue they need to go in and lets them know what education they need for the job. Also in the Outlook Handbook, it shows you the average salary that you get for that job. It shows you whether it's a growing or shrinking field. So if you want to be a watchmaker and you see like, wow, they've dropped 40% every year over the last 30 years, that might not be a field I want to go into. So this is a great tool to use, and I really hope people use it going forward. Question?
There is a question in the chat, Chris,
Mhm.
from Belinda Swanson. She says, what is your opinion of the text resume? And can you share with us how to write a text resume?
What do you mean by a text resume? You mean just like freehand without a template?
And Belinda, you could just type in the chat for a
Yeah.
response.
Well, for a text, well, I believe it's talking about writing without a template, if I understand the question correctly.
She hasn't typed anything for clarification, Chris. So if you would just want to, answer off of your best judgment and then continue.
Oh, okay. So one of the
Oh,
things,
she just answered. My supervisor mentioned that sending resumes via text are becoming popular, and we were interested in knowing what the structure for this may be.
this is something that I've only heard a handful of times. I find the structure should be similar to a regular resume. What I would have a client do is, if you want to use the template from, Eleanor WorkNet or someone else, you can use the whole template, take a screenshot, and then you could text that. Or you could have the template out, copy the text, send it to yourself in an email, and that way you could copy that and send it as a text. There are lots of different avenues. Especially if you go to Google Digital Skills, one of the things that I use all the time is Google Keep Notes. It's pretty much works like a Post-it note. It stays in your browser. And when I have to see long, complicated text, I type them out in there, copy it. I have the app on my phone, and then I could just send it as a text. But I feel if the client allows, if the employer is allowing you to send a text resume, it is better to type it out outside of your text box before you send it. So I would use a similar format to anything else. That is probably based closer on what the employer wants. For my money, I think the best thing if you send it through text is to take a screenshot of your actual resume and send it in. But if that's not what they want, type it out as close to a regular resume as possible, and then copy and paste and send it out. Hope I answered that question. All right. So for career exploration, this is also the time where we should go back to one-on-one interviewing so that the student or client can more express why they're looking for work. As I mentioned earlier, career exploration is a very personal process, and getting down to the nitty-gritty of what a client wants to do and why is very helpful for finding them employment. So that being said, I wanted to also put all of the links that we use in the presentation and the end, your GCF Learn Free, your digital skills, adult resource with CoAbe. You can build resumes on our WorkNet. And also if you go to Job Network and Indeed, that's where all the fake job postings as examples for that and how to spot fake job posting. I was looking at the chat. Office has an app that lets you save to your downloads, attach emails. Yeah, that's good. Because if you're going to send a text resume, I would highly recommend that you type it out first. And especially that goes back to digital literacy skills. We want to make sure that you're using professional language in your text messages. Because if you send a text resume and you have no punctuation and you use the letter U except YOU and things like that, it makes you look unprofessional. So even though text might be easier, you want to make sure it looks as professional as possible. Okay. So that's pretty much what I have for today. All of these links are available in my PowerPoint. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Okay? Does anyone have any questions for me right now?
I don't believe so, Chris. I'm looking here in the chat. It looks like just some comments. We have some great presentations and thank yous coming through. I did want to take this opportunity to reiterate that this session was recorded and the presentation slides, the direct link to those have been put in the chat earlier and throughout the chat, but those will also be sent to you via our website and your follow-up email tomorrow. And then I'm just about to put the follow-up survey in the chat as well if you'd like to be timely and go ahead and take that following the session. And then I did see a question come through, Chris, from Andrew Feller, if you want to address that here. I'm not sure if you can read that, but it says, I suggest that job seekers ask, when should I check back with you, and make yourself a note to follow the direction. That way you don't feel like you are being a pest. I guess more of a
Oh,
comment.
definitely. And also, I didn't put it in the presentation because I didn't want to make this too digital literacy heavy, but teaching your students how to use their phones effectively is a great tool. Whenever I do one of the job interview or really any segment, I always tell students to use their notes and memos page. Every cell phone has whether it's iPhone or Android, has a page. It's either called notes, memos, and if you don't have it, you can download it as an app. And this is something that you keep your email password in, any tidbits, and also using your cell phone calendar. Because there's a lot of times where things come up. I know everyone in this meeting knows that we all are in 1,000 meetings and have 1,000 things to respond to. And if you put things in your calendar with reminders, that will help you because you always have your phone with you. Same thing about your notes page. If there's important information that you need to remember, don't pull out your phone and take a picture of it. Type it in your notes page, because if you take a picture of it, it's going to fall into the other 4,000 pictures that are on a student's phone. Yes, free typing websites. If you go to GCF Learn Free, they have a very comprehensive typing tutorial. It teaches you where your hand should be on the keyboard. You can have time. It gives you different prompts. That's on that GCF Learn Free site as well. And that's another reason, I'm glad you brought that up. Those are another thing that's stopping our clients from getting employed. I have seen people who have been secretaries or aides for years, and they are no longer employed because they can't pass a typing test. Now, personally, for me, I don't see the necessity for typing exams. It's not like it's the 50s. I'm asking someone to dictate a letter to me post haste, but a lot of companies are putting that in their requirements for people who are doing secretarial administrative work. So if you can use GCF Learn Free or any other resources to help with typing, that's a great thing that our clients need in order to be employed. And when you're doing these, you want to make sure that you're going to hear a lot of crazy stories or ideas, and make sure your clients are as professional as possible when doing an interview, when doing anything job related. Make sure they change their email address. There's one student whose email address was virus 9 million, and it was all of the zeros. So he never got emails back, and he wondered why, because no one's going to remember to type 6 zeros every time. There's little things like that can be helpful.
Chris, as we finish up today, I just want to say thank you to you and thank you to everybody for attending. This is Sarah Goldhammer from the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center. We're part of the Illinois Community College Board Professional Development Network, here with my colleague Tara Schwab, and we are proud that we get to work with Chris on a regular basis. We have watched his great work for years. And so we're excited that he has shared with you today. And now I'm sure you're all Chris McElroy fans, just like Tara and I are. So thanks.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to see him present on interviewing a few years ago. And it's really nice to see some updated information, some focus on service integration, some really helpful tips for programs and students to be able to support them with interviewing online. So it's great information. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I'm telling you guys, like, I've been doing resume writing and building for a long time. That Illinois Works, that Illinois Working at Resume Builder is one of the most intuitive and flexible resume builders I've ever seen. So it's free, because usually to get that kind of flexibility, you have to pay and subscribe. That one is really nice. So if you don't take away anything else from this interview, really dive into that. It's a great resource. And GCF Learn Free. I love it.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time this morning. Thank you to Chris and Sarah and Tara for joining us. Please, if you have the opportunity, I've put that survey link in the chat. And you will also have that opportunity to that exact same link and to our website, which hosts all of the WeO Wednesday webinars from the previous last 3 years, if you'd like to explore those. And as well as this recorded session will be hosted there within 48 hours. So we ask that you just explore those resources. And if you know anyone who wasn't able to attend today and you'd like them to attend this session, they will have the opportunity to do so via the recording. So thank you everyone again for your time, and I'm going to close this out today. Chris, any final remarks before we close out?
I just want to thank everyone for coming. If you have any questions or about what I did as transition coach or anything I mentioned in this segment, please, oh, we have a hand. I think we do. If anything in this segment, please let me know. And I could be contacted. My information is in the slide, or you could email any one of these people and they'll definitely get you in touch with me.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Bye-bye.